Hi, I'm going to take you through a really easy tutorial for how to make scrubs uniforms for NHS or healthcare workers near you. So the first thing you need to do is join a Facebook group to find out the best place for your scrubs to go. So in the link below I'll put in all the links that you'll need, so links to the pattern, links to the Facebook groups and links to all the rules and regulations about scrubs making, which makes it sound really complicated, but it's not as complicated as it sounds once it's all broken down. First of all, I'm going to tell you what you need. So you will need a pattern first and foremost. So you won't necessarily have to buy any of these things. Some of these things you'll be able to get from donations from your local scrubs group. So things like fabric, patterns, stuff like that. So this is a So Different pattern that I've been using. It's free to download. But it is something like 65 A4 pages, so you might want to send it to printers if you can't get hold of one. And obviously you'll need some fabric, whether that's donations or you bought your own. So I bought this from the internet for a wholesale price, and it's just navy blue because healthcare workers quite like that. Obviously it doesn't show up blood quite so much. Interfacing, this is for your front facing for your V. But you can also use just extra fabric for that. Drawstring, or you could also use fabric again for that. Binding, again, you could make your own binding, but this just makes it look quite neat at the back. And also, what's quite nice is these little labels. I bought these online, they say for the love of scrubs on them. And they're ribbons, but you could use your own ribbons, you can make your own. Here's pin cushion. So you need pins, you'll need safety pins as well, seam ripper, snips, scissors, sewing machine obviously, and an iron. And if you've got an overlocker, that's really useful. I don't have one. This is all just going to be on a sewing machine to make it as sort of easy and accessible as possible. You can see my scrubs there in the background, so you might want to use some bags to put them in at the end. First things first is you need to do the prep. So there are like a couple of ways to do this, but you will need to put the interfacing on your collar first of all. If you're not going to use interfacing, then this is what your collar is going to look like. So this is just binding all the way around. So you can do it that way, but a lot of people have been doing it this way. So this is basically a V here, and if you turn it out, you can see the interface in there. So that's how that works. You can see it's got two sleeves here. Some patterns have sleeves set in already. This one didn't because I bought it kind of quite early doors. You've got a front piece, you've got a back piece, you've got a label, you've got bias binding here at the back, and you've got your V. So for the trousers, again, you've got two front, you've got two back. This is your drawstring. So don't just use elastic because it breaks down under the 60-degree wash that these need to go through. So that's another thing to mention, is that your scrubs have to be able to survive a 60-degree NHS wash, because that's how hot it needs to be to get rid of COVID-19. It's also got the label in the back there, but it's got the pockets as well. So I've not put in side pockets because it's just too complicated, it takes too long. So you can, when using your V, you can use a back piece as well. So that's a back piece. So if you are doing it like that, then this is how you'll do it. But I just use this and then bias binding at the back because it's a bit easier to deal with. So this is my V and this is my interfacing. So like I said, you can just use double fabric, and I'm going to iron those together. So that's your first bit of prep. So I'm going to zigzag around this now just to make sure that this interfacing stays in position on my V. So now I've got my V, I've only zigzagged around these edges and I've left the inner edge bare because we'll need to top stitch that later, so it'll make it too bulky if you do zigzag stitch. So obviously if you have an overlocker, you can overlock this. So that's that bit prepared. Now I'm going to show you how to iron the pocket. So the first thing you do on your pockets is just iron a small hem at the top and then sew that flat. So I've ironed down my hem here at the top, and then I've ironed a small seam here like this, and I've ironed 2 small triangles at each bottom corner, and then I've ironed here. So what happens is, if I fold that all down, so you see when it folds down it makes this little diamond shape here at the corners. So this is what you want basically. So you want to do that all the way around. You want to press all 4 of your pockets like this, and that's basically all your prep done, and then you can do some proper sewing then. You pin them on and then you sew around this edge, but make sure to backstitch at your top and then do kind of like a little triangle here. This is what they will look like now. So as you can see, I've made a little triangle here, and that's to reinforce them, so when people are putting the hands sort of in and out of them all day, it just means that they won't start to fray and come off, because while the scrubs don't have to be beautiful, they do have to kind of be quite robust to live up to being used over the next few months. So ta-da! So that's the front pocket. Now I'm going to the back pockets. So when you're putting on the pockets, they go right sides together, because otherwise you won't be able to match them when it comes to sewing your crotch, because I've sewn my pockets on the wrong sides before now. So now you've done all your preparation and you've got your pocket in place, so making sure that it's not too close to your drawstring channel and that it's just above where your crotch is, so that's about the right place for it. So once you're happy with where your 2 pockets are placed, you take your front pieces of your trouser and then you line them up just like this with your inside seams. So obviously your back piece is going to be bigger, that's because you need room for your bum. You just need to line these up all the way down to the bottom and then sew them and then zigzag them, so, or you can overlock them if you've got an overlocker. So the big thing is always zigzag all of your seams, because they need to stay together. So you can now see that the seam's all sewn up, it's all zigzagged and it's robust and secure, so you know you've done it right because you'll have the cross here. Now is kind of my favourite bit. You match up your 2 top bits like this. You can see how your trousers are going to look, but obviously you're not going to sew on your outer edges, you're going to sew on your inside edges. So then you turn it all the way through to the opposite side. It gets slightly confusing, but you just need to make sure to line up your outer edges. Ta-da! If you were going to make pockets, you'd put them into this side seam here, so you'd have to put a pocket on each side and then sew around them and catch them into your seam. But because side pockets are quite tricky to do, I'm not going to do them on these because these are just simple scrubs. So I'm just having outside pockets only. Just sew up both of these outside seams and zigzag them both. But now you've zigzagged your inner seam like that, if you pull up right sides in, you just need to sew all the way around your U shape. So this is your crotch. Make sure to line up your seams in the middle. I'll just put a pin there to help me do that. And then you'll zigzag over it just to make it strong. So at this bit you're glad that you tested this out before, because now I've got both of my pockets on the inside, which is exactly where I want them to be. So now that we've done the seams all the way around, our trousers are looking like this. Now what we need to do is make a channel for our drawstring. So use the circumference of your trousers as a bit of a frame of reference for your drawstring. So as I said before, you can use a drawstring like this. So this is an elasticated drawstring. So this is good because I can use the elastic to stretch as I go along, but if this elastic does break down over time when it's being washed, then it still will have the drawstring inside. So this works really well. You can just make a normal channel and just use a regular drawstring, and you can also use a piece of fabric as your drawstring and just fold it over, sew it so it's one big long string, and then put that in your thing instead, because actually it doesn't matter. So I'm going to start at the front because this is where my drawstring is going to come out. So wherever your drawstring is going to come out, that's where you need to start. So what I do is on the back I just fold a little bit of this over. So this is my hem, so this is just like if you were doing your own hem. For a normal drawstring channel, only I'm catching the elastic inside, that's the only difference. If you were going to have a normal drawstring, you just fold it over and you'd fold it over again. And make sure to put safety pins on the end of your drawstring to make sure you don't lose them inside. I've now sewn my channel in with this small hem here. So it doesn't matter if your hem's not perfectly neat, because actually that's not really going to be seen. So you can see I've slightly stretched it, which is why it's slightly puckered. So it's important if you use an elastic to slightly stretch it as you go along, just so it's kind of taut. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just fold it over like that, and then I'm going to top stitch it. And the great thing is that because this is folded over, it sort of measures it for you, so you don't really need to press it or anything. You just need to make sure that you're along the edge of the elastic the whole time to make it really neat. So now you just need to go along your bottom. So you can follow the stitch you've made earlier for your hem and use that as your guide for going all the way around. So the main thing you need to think about is just to make sure you don't catch your drawstrings when you're sewing. So back stitch here, go all the way around, and then back stitch at the end, but stop sort of parallel to these on your back, because that is where you're going to put your label in. I keep forgetting my label, so I'm going to pin it in there to make sure that I don't forget. So this is a ribbon, so it's not going to fray, but you can zigzag your label if it is cotton and you think it's going to fray. The one thing I would say about ribbons is they are really slippy, so they are a bit of a pain to sew, and you have to make sure to back stitch over them as well, just to make sure they're secure. So now it should look like that, but we've got one more thing to do on the trousers, which is the hems. So basically you just need to press your hems. So on the top we're going to be sewing the hems flat to make it easier, but there's not really any way of doing that on the trousers, so we're just going to do it in a circle. So if you have a sewing machine that has one of these that's removable, then basically you can remove that and that'll make it easier when you're going around. So I've done both my hems now, so my trousers are hemmed, which means that I can turn them through. Voila! There is another way to do the drawstring, so you can make little buttonholes here on each side and then use a steam ripper to open them and then pull them through, but I found this is just as easy, and also I don't have to worry about holes fraying here. If I pull these, you might have to trim these because they do end up sometimes being a bit long, but you don't have to pull them too tight because obviously you don't know the size of the person who's going to be wearing them. So I just pull mine in a little bit, and then I think up to about here is fine, so just give them a cut. Then double knot them just to make sure that they don't get lost inside. And that's it. So you have trousers. Just trying on the trousers to make sure they fit, and they do, so it's all fine around the waistband, and the pockets are in the right place. All the seams are strong, so I'm happy with those. So this is one of my least favourite parts, apart from putting the pockets on, just because it's very easy to make a mistake. This is your front piece with your pockets on. You need to pin your V all the way down here and all the way on the other side. So front to front which means that your interfacing is facing outwards on the front, because we're going to turn this all the way through, and when we turn it all the way through, that will be on the back. So make sure you pin it neatly and just be very careful around this V, because it's a bit of a pain, to be honest. So your V is now sewn, so what you might need to do is just clip maybe here and around here, just to get rid of some of your bulk, because this will help this to lie flatter. But just be very, very careful, because I've cut through there before. So just be steady when it comes to your clipping. So I've ironed this to the back, as you can see. So now I'm just going to very carefully top stitch very close to the edge all the way around, just so this doesn't come out, just to keep it in place. So now I've top stitched this, so that's kind of neatly in place. I need to get my back piece and put them right sides together, and you just sew them at the shoulder seam. So the benefit of doing it like this is that you can catch in your facing as well. So this helps keep your facing more secure, and it's much neater because you've caught it all up in your hem. And then once you've done that, you will zigzag it. So just do that across those two, and then we'll bind this neck in the middle. So now you've got your shoulders stitched together. So you need to bind your back and also put your label in. But you can bind all the way around, which is what I did with this. This is made out of an old bed sheet. But you just need to make sure to fold over and make like a diamond shape. So if you do that, then that will make your binding sort of neat and pointed at the end. So remember that if you're binding your entire thing, basically. So bed sheets are quite good because they can withstand high temperatures, so it's a good one to use. To do your binding, so you open up one edge of your binding, and then you sew that onto the front side of your fabric. Sew quite close to the edge and just sew it open like that. So now you fold it round to the other side. And another thing you need to remember to do is to put your label in, and then just sew along here, but just make sure to follow your binding so that you don't end up with an extra edge of sewing. So now that your neck is bound and your label's in, you can start on the sleeves. So your pattern might have sleeves drafted into it, because one of these patterns does, but mine doesn't because I got it in the beginning. So to put our sleeve in, we're going to do it flat, which makes it much easier to put in. So basically, I've pinned this sleeve into one of the armholes, just like this. You're just going to sew over that and then zigzag it. And just make sure that the most curved part of your sleeve is sitting at your shoulder. So this is how the pins will help you. Sleeve is set in and it's all zigzagged, so that's secure. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to now do the other side. So now you've got both your sleeves set in, like so. So now the next thing to do is hem your sleeves, and you can do this flat. So this makes it, again, a lot easier to do it. So now that the hems are sewn on your sleeves, the next thing to do is to do your side seams. So for this, I'll just make sure to pin under your armpits, because that'll keep it in place. And you're only going to sew up to about here, so put a pin in here, because you've got your side slits to put in, and you'll be able to see because there's a curve on the fabric and then a straight edge. So do that on both sides and zigzag it afterwards. You need to do these two little flaps here. You just need to make a really small hem, so maybe about ½ centimetre, and then turn another ½ centimetre. Do that on both sides, pressing it with the iron. and then just sew all the way around and just make sure to backstitch on both ends to make sure that they're secure. So this is what my V's look like now. So that is the front side and that is the back side. Now I've pressed a hem in across here, sew that in on both sides, and then pretty much done. That's my hems and my flaps and the side seam's done. So turn it around and see what it looks like. So there is one medium scrubs top. So this is my 9th one now. So these are obviously slightly too big, they're not actually my size, but they fit, there's no holes in them. I just need to make sure that I've trimmed all of my threads before I send them off. So that's the last thing to talk about. I've used paper bags because I'm trying to cut down plastic, basically. But if you do have any plastic bags that you know have not been in contact with any COVID-19, then you could use those. I've just written, for the love of scrubs, navy blue, which is the colour obviously, size medium, and then just write down the date it was sealed. I'm going to take these off and I'm going to fold them up and put them in here. Got some paper tape. It's quite good. Quite a good thing for cutting down on plastic is using paper tape. And then these are my little parcels. They sort of look like parcels you'd use in the war. And I guess it is a kind of war in a way. That's how you make really simple scrubs. So I've made this as simple as it possibly can be. I hope this is really useful to you. And if you look down below, I've also got a link to my website which just has the full instructions on it. So you've got them there as well, because I just want this to be as easy as possible for those that want to do it. Any questions, let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching. Happy scrubs making.